Hello and welcome to the first of the new Quicc Gains live stream. So today, it seems, given it was our first live stream, going to be a weekly thing that we're going to be putting on as a business every single week, this time every week moving forward. It only seemed fitting that we would interview kind of the father of our business, a man who comes from a rather interesting background. Not the kind of background you'd expect a tech founder, co-founder of a business to come from. An interesting lad. He is husband, a father. He is an entrepreneur. He is a mentor, a leader. Without further ado, here we go. I will introduce you to Quicc's CEO, Mike Mathia. Here we go. Hello, Mike.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing this morning? Dan, how are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm all good. We had a couple of technical mishaps.
Yeah, my gosh. And by the way, thanks for taking me from father of the business down to lad. I feel youthful, energetic, and ready to go now this morning. So let's do this.
My pleasure. So what we want to get from you today is words of wisdom. Every single guest that we're going to have on this stream moving forward is going to be an experienced entrepreneur, an experienced expert with lots of expertise and wisdom to share that they've gleaned from their own journeys. So I know you obviously have a fair amount of experience. I'm not saying you're old. I didn't say that.
Was it the gray hair or the receding hairline or both, Dan?
Just shave it off. It'll be easier.
Okay.
So where does your story start? I mean, not obviously, birth or anything. We don't have to go back that far, but it's your entrepreneurial spark. Where did that actually first come from?
Yeah, I would say it was a lot of years spent in the corporate world, Dan, where you saw certain things that you thought could always be done a little bit better, and you were always striving to figure out ways to maximize efficiency, improve processes, just be the very best you can be in these different situations. And when you're in those environments and you get those thoughts, it spurs ideas of how can you make certain things better. And ultimately, you realize as an entrepreneur that the best way to make things better is to many times just go out and get them done yourself. And that's where you decide to take the entrepreneurial plunge.
So would you say you were an intrapreneur as an employee first?
Most certainly, and I think that's the most important bit of advice I could give anyone out there. Listen, entrepreneurship, it sounds glamorous, but we both know, Dan, it's also full of challenges, sacrifices, headaches, pressures. I mean, there's a number of cons that go alongside the pros of entrepreneurship, but what everyone can be is entrepreneurial, which that word just simply means that whatever environment you find yourself in, you always try to find a way to make a certain process or a certain situation that much better, and therefore you're driving progress even within a corporate environment or a small business environment. You don't have to be entrepreneurial to be preneurial, and that's really important.
So where would you say the first time you really broke out of the employer's world? How did that actually come about?
So my background was human resources and recruiting, and Dan, that's what I spent nearly 20 years in the corporate world doing exactly that. And here's the best way I can characterize it for you. There's really two variables. The first is I saw this disconnect that existed between management, ownership, executive decision makers, and the everyday employee or the everyday applicant who's just trying to make their way in the world. There's different mindsets, there's different areas of knowledge and experience, there's different needs and desires. And what you generally see is in the HR world, what we're meant to do is to build these bridges between the disconnects of the perspectives of the employee base and the ownership group or the management group. And many times the management group has to make decisions that are based on bits of information that the everyday employee has no idea that they have to consider when they're making a business decision. And the reverse is true too. Sometimes it's easy in management to get disconnected from the daily needs and wants and perceptions that our employee base has. So HR is meant to build these bridges. And what I saw happening a lot was when I was able to work with our employees and help them understand the management side of why certain decisions had to be made, I realized that that actually empowered them to make better decisions and to be better positioned to grow in the company because they better understood management's perspective, and that increased their compensation power. It increased their job stability and longevity. Understand that. And I thought, there might be a business model here to this, to take out into first my local community and be a consultant working with candidate clients on all matters of career, but doing it and coaching them from the perspective of understanding management's perspective. And so that led to the idea to jump out of business, corporate business, into my own. And the other thing, Dan, which was factor two, a little bit of a lighthearted one, but here's how it was. For those watching today who practice voodoo, which is probably very few of you, but for those who know about voodoo, it's probably a lot of you, almost all of you. And basically what happened is, if you envision Mike Mathia for a moment as a doll. So when I would hire a new employee, and obviously that's a very positive, life-changing event where they think you're the greatest guy in the world, right? And so they put this nice little doll on a shelf, they dust it off, they keep it clean, they pay it respect, they make sure it doesn't get damaged or hurt in any way. And then 6 months later, maybe they didn't work out as an employee. The discussion you have to have with them. I'm sorry, this didn't work out. We're going to have to go another direction, another change. And that beautiful, pristine doll that was sitting on the shelf that they thought was this wonderful piece of, property, all of a sudden they go find 6-inch long needles, and they find all the various pain points and trigger points they can put in that voodoo doll to obviously cause me pain as an individual, because I made a decision to let them go that negatively impacted every aspect of their life. And I think it's just this idea that as hard as I tried to work to do good things and positively impact people, I was also having this balancing amount of negative impact on people, obviously through no fault of my own, but it's the role that I had to play in the organization. That was my responsibility. And I started thinking, instead of this balancing offset, why don't I throw myself into my own consulting business, my own entrepreneurial venture? And now every day that I come in, it's all about to help them on the positive side of things. And you can just put those 6-inch pins away. There's no need to stick them into my doll anymore, because I'm just here to help you positively. And I think that was the first crossover mentally I made to, I really think I can go out and do something good in my own community using my knowledge and experience. And let's just put that voodoo doll down, guys.
See, I've still just got a picture of you in a dress and lipstick on the bonnet.
Yes, it's an ugly picture. In fact, my receding hairline and gray hair is a much better visual, Dan.
That's right. It was fairly alluring to a degree. So don't put yourself down that much. So with the entrepreneurial spark, that's kind of getting to the point of where I think the audience would really start to learn from your wisdom in this, because you moved away from the employer's world as an employee to further empower people in general.
Right.
Now, how did you go about actually making that step? Because what a lot of people struggle with, I mean, at Quicc, obviously we're part of the same team here. We empower people to be heard and get their message out there, and to really kind of like start their own entrepreneurial journey and to kickstart that growth. That's what Quick's all about. So I get that, you get that, obviously. But for people to actually make that leap, it's, mentally speaking, it's not an easy one to make. You've made it and I've made it. But what advice would you give someone who's an employee right now, or who's even just started their business, who's still quite struggling with that step, who's struggling with the mindset of, if I can go back to a job, I will, it's okay, before they actually fully commit to their business, which is what really you and I know you need to get to. But that's not an easy hurdle to make, is it?
It's not an easy hurdle to make at all, Dan. I mean, just going back to, my corporate days, here's the things that I had that I knew I could count on every day because of my role. I knew I had job stability. I knew that if I really wanted to retire from that job, I didn't have to worry about income continuity to provide for my family. And that's a very, very big mental hurdle. As an entrepreneur, you've got to jump over and be willing to let go of. because otherwise you'll be chained to the corporate job for the foreseeable future, or maybe forever, which isn't necessarily a bad thing depending on a person's preferences. But I had to first of all be willing to let that go, knowing that I had marketable skills, that if this entrepreneurial journey didn't work out the way I had hoped, the likelihood that I could again find continuity of income and reclaim that stream was very, very high. So it helped me get over the hurdle. The other thing is, especially when you're in a larger business, say, high, small to medium-sized business, and certainly to large corporation. In my role as an HR executive, anytime I needed something from the marketing department, Dan, do you know what I did? I went to our marketing department. And if I had something I needed on the finance and accounting side, I just go to our accounting team, right? And I get help there, getting an invoice paid, or getting something approved for purchase. And when I wanted to make a policy change, I'd go to our executive leadership ownership group and request it to be done. If I had an IT problem, I just dialed up our IT professional and let them ride into the rescue and bail me out of a bad IT situation. So when you're in that corporate environment, sometimes you get very, very reliant too on a lot of the resource pieces you have associated with your own role that makes it so much easier. But when you jump in entrepreneurship, Dan, you are the individual who is now playing every instrument in the band. And some of that music sounds godly awful. Like you cannot play the music that you can when you have all the pieces of the band together with other people playing the instruments. And so but the crash course that you get from that, I feel so much better positioned today, sitting here right now talking to you about the nuances and intricacies of how every aspect of business works, because by nature, I was just forced to immerse myself in it, figure it out, and find a way to move the business forward. And so the idea of how much you're going to learn in an entrepreneurial journey, whether ultimately it works out the way you want or doesn't work out the way you want, you are going to be a better educated, more capable individual and professional than you ever were before. In the corporate world, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I had. And what it really landed on, and this is a mantra I would encourage all of us to think about, whoever's watching today, which is where it really landed, Dan, was I just decided, in life, we don't want to have a very long list of regrets when we come to the end of it. And what I really told myself is I really didn't want to regret not trying something and being left to wonder what it would have been or what I could have made out of it had I went ahead and taken the leap, versus the regret of trying something and it just didn't work out the way you want it. That's something I can live with, but I couldn't live with the unknown of, hey, if I just taken that leap, what would that have been like? And what could I have done with it? And what measure of success could I have found by doing that? So that's really what basically took the willpower and the courage to overcome the fear of that whole scenario and take the leap.
Yeah, it isn't. It is definitely a leap, isn't it? I mean, funny enough, I was just listening to a podcast episode from the people over at Think Media, and one of the things that I think it was Heather Torres was saying it was that every creator has gone through what you're going through, and it reminded me of a saying that I remind myself every now and again, which is never to judge your beginning by someone else's middle.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because we all go through it. And they were talking about it in context of as a creator about, I think they were talking about niching down and finding a market and refining down who your audience is and that kind of stuff. And they said that they've actually rattled off all of the, when I say not all of the, quite a few of the quite well-known YouTubers now, and they were like, they're doing this now, but over the past 5, 6, 7, 10 years, they've done this and they've done this and they've done this and they've done this before they ended up over here, but They had to start all the way over there. And
a great analogy, Dan, to your point of what you're saying is, think about, I compare entrepreneurship a lot to going through the education system. We start out in the elementary school grades, kindergarten and first grade, and we really appreciate snack time and recess and those kinds of things. And we're learning with the fire hose. And then eventually you get your PhD in whatever field of study you're pursuing. Entrepreneurship is very much like that too, in that there's going to be a lot of learning along the way. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Human nature is we make mistakes. And certainly when you get into entrepreneurship, you make mistakes in that pursuit as well. What you ultimately do is you just got to stay in school. You can't drop out. I mean, you got to stay in school, keep learning, be proactive about learning, find good mentors, find fellow entrepreneurs going through some of the same challenges who've walked down the same paths you've walked down. That'll certainly make the learning process a little bit more expedited and a little bit less painful. You'd rather learn by hearing from other people's experiences and taking lessons out of that than learning by failing because you weren't really willing to hear other people's perspectives, or you didn't go find resource information. You just kind of jumped into it cold turkey, eyes wide shut, right? So anyway, I think that's one of the things that I took out of it is the constant learning process. I'm 7 years into entrepreneurship, and I'm kind of at that middle school stage. And no offense to the middle schoolers out there in the world today, but yeah, I'm still the moody teenage entrepreneur who's going through a lot of hormonal changes, Dan. But I'm doing okay. I'm surviving.
It's all good. So that's where you come from, and so where are you right now? So obviously with Quicc, I mean, you've got your co-founder Jason. We're going to hear from him next week. So how did you two meet, and how did the business that is Quicc come about? I mean, how did you actually get to where you are right now, and where are you right now?
Well, I think when I think about where I'm at now, and we just went through the, where did I come from story, first of all, one of the funny things is, Dan, is you've known me only through Quicc, right? So you see me with some facial hair, you see me now, I wear t-shirts, and that's kind of how I dress. And you can't see my shoes right now, but they're tennis shoes. But if you would have, when Jason and I first met, I'm still kind of rehabbing from 20 years in the corporate world and rehabbing from 20 years as an HR executive. And I'm still throwing on a suit jacket and a button-up shirt and, still throw on the dress shoes. And blue jeans was my only compromise when I made the conversion from corporate world to entrepreneurship. I'd throw on blue jeans, right? So, and then I met Jason Taves back in 2017. And there was one connecting point from insights to where we're at now, which is when I was meeting with our insights clients, consulting with them on matters of career, and they were telling me that a lot of them were having problems with visibility and getting noticed and standing out, in a large group of candidates vying for a job. And we really started focusing on video. It really became the core piece of my focus because, candidates would say, I fill an online job application, I send my resume, I go down to the office in person, and I just keep getting routed through a careers page. How do I get a minute or two of the employer's ear? And that's the power of video and where it started to come into play that led us to Quicc. Video is a powerful medium. We know that. We're talking through video right now, but video engages multiple senses. We get visual cues from it. We get audible cues from it. There's energy and motion. And we can share our stories, and we can be called and moved by stories. They stir emotion. So there's a lot of power in video. And it hadn't really been heavily leveraged on the recruiting side. And so what we're encouraging insights clients to do before we get to this point with Quicc is record a video of yourself. I mean, 30 seconds is all it needs to be. And just share a little bit more about what you're looking for, what you bring to the table, and just show a little bit of your personality. But just the fact that you're recording a video immediately puts you in the top 1% of candidates who are finding creative and innovative and disruptive ways to present themselves to employers. Because we in the recruiting business, Dan, we got fatigued on resume after resume after resume, black and white, top to bottom, left to right, education, work history, job responsibilities, all these things. I mean, it really wears you out mentally as a recruiter to go through so many of those. So when I've got 100 resumes and one person sent me a video intro, how engaged do you think I'm going to be with that resume versus all the others? I'm engaged. I need to meet this person. Just the fact that they were so distinctive in the way they introduced themselves to me means they were going to get an interview from me. And as I went through this with our insights clients, it really started resonating and working well for them and creating a lot of interview opportunities and ultimately job offers. And so I said, we need to scale this. And so the first idea that we had coming out of insights that kind of started guiding me to the tech side is I saw Career Builder and I saw Monster, and we're all familiar with them. And they were so resume centric, but they weren't person centric. And it's because the video medium was missing. So the original thing we built out of insights into tech We launched a company called Knox, KNOXX. It's actually the company that owns the Quicc product and some other products we built. And Knox was all about building a career builder-like environment for recruiters and candidates, but it was being linked through video. So the resume was there, a lot more about the individual was there, but the video intro was there. And we launched that locally here in the Wichita area, which is where I'm currently based, our company's based, where I grew up. Launched it locally and ended up getting 3,000 candidates on that site and 158 employers recruited from it. And we started to say, this could be something really special, and let's go raise capital with it. And ultimately, that's a little bit of a different story. But as I was trying to go through the Knox capital fundraising process to ultimately take this and take on a career builder, I met Jason. I met his father-in-law originally, Dan, who saw what we were doing with Knox, saw that Mike seems like a pretty motivated entrepreneur who's got a pretty good idea with this Knox thing. And he needs to meet my son-in-law, Jason. And so I said, yeah, sure, I'm happy to meet Jason. And we met for lunch and talked to him about what we were doing over here at Knox. And Jason shared a little bit more about his background. And Dan, you know Jason, I was immediately blown away by it. Okay, this is a sharp, young guy who's going to be somebody very, very special in the tech and entrepreneurial space. I'd love to partner with this guy. And so I asked Jason to join us for the Knox venture. And he said no. Can you believe it, Dan? He told me no. He told me no. And so I liken getting Jason involved to our company kind of like basically closing the deal with my wife. I asked her out more than once, Dan, trying more than one approach. And she was a tough sell. She was a hard get. Well, so was Jason Taves. And so the reason why he said he didn't want to join me for the Knox venture is he saw with Knox, in the concept I described to you, we had to get this massive amount of candidates into the site, and we had to get an equal amount of job opportunities and companies in the site. So this two-sided marketplace was always balanced. If there's any imbalance, then the other side of the equation might bow out and your entire business model is destroyed. So a two-sided marketplace required a lot of intensive capital, a lot of work, and Jason just didn't see that was something that he wanted to commit himself to, which he was right, by the way, because I didn't win Powerball. So I didn't have $70 million to pour in a business idea, and nobody wanted to put capital into it. So, again, another lesson learned. But it led us out of saying, okay, if we just laser lock into the video medium, then maybe there's something there. Forget about the recruiting piece, just the video medium. And within video was all this mountain of data that we're drawing as humans when we watch video and when we hear the audio coming from the video. And so we said, maybe there's a way we can leverage AI to do some of those same perceptive things for folks in the recruiting industry to better source talent with the right soft skills. And then that led into an idea for Alice. And that's when Jason said, AI, machine learning? That sounds cool. So let's go have another lunch, talk about it. And with that idea, finally the deal was sealed. And just like I finally ended up having my now wife accept my overtures, Jason finally accepted mine too. And the rest is history.
So really, Jason was playing hard to get, and it was techie toys that tipped him over to the edge of saying yes.
Absolutely right. The minute you got a complex, meaningful tech component to it, that's exactly something that piqued his interest and had him decide to come hang out with Mike a little more often.
I have to remember that one. I'll just drop hints with my wife. Drones, AI, techie toys.
Yeah, that's right, Dan. It used to be chocolates and flowers, and now it's drones and tech and the other things. So just new ways to attract people.
Awesome. So we've gone from where you were, how you actually got to starting up Quicc. So tell us a bit about Quicc, and I mean, obviously we know how it came about, but what Quicc is, what it does, your position within the business, and really how Quicc actually serves its audience. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, Quick's been an amazing story over the last year, which is really effectively when we launched it, Dan. So, we talk about lessons learned, and there's a lot to learn in things that don't go the way that you want. So here's Mike, right? Corporate guy, jumps out of the corporate world and does a consulting business that has some modest local success, but it wasn't scalable because I'm not scalable from a time perspective. Then you create Knox thing. It effectively fails or doesn't work out the way we want it because it's a two-sided marketplace that takes capital that I didn't have to scale it. Then we go into this product called Alice from Knox that was using AI to pull soft skill metrics from video, which was a brilliant idea, technology. We saw some real potential to disrupt there, but we launched that prematurely. And we did successfully raise fundraising capital for it, but this conversion from Alice to Quicc really happened, Dan, because with Alice, we realized that it needed more visionary buyers than what the market was producing. There were just too many pragmatic buyers in the HR and recruiting space. So we knew we had to do something different. So Jason and I sat down and talked, and really Jason deserves the credit for the pivot to Quicc because he said, hey, we got all this incoming video with Alice. We're already using AI to transcribe what these candidates say and then put different types of analysis on the transcription. So here we've got this tool that already transcribes audio, and we're seeing all this social media content now that's being driven by video, but it's all default audio off. So if I don't engage the audio, I have no idea what the speaker's saying, and therefore I really don't understand the full context of the video. We see some videos are captioned, but not as many as what you would expect since social media videos being presented without audio. You expect to see a ton of captioning, but we didn't. And so we started asking our creative friends in the space why that was, and largely driven by Jason and some of our other team members at the time. And creators said, because captions, frankly, can I say ass on a live stream? I can't, can I?
Technically speaking, it is your business, your stream. I have a contract with you, which is your name on that contract. So technically speaking, you can do kind of what you want.
Fair enough.
I can't sack you.
And I realized that in asking you that question, I already said ass anyway. So creator said, it's a pain in the ass to get captions on a video. It's just so tedious. It's time consuming. Many times you have to hack together multiple services. You've got to go to a transcription provider first who gets you an SRT. Then you've got to upload the SRT alongside the video. And then there's some other things you want to do. If you want to burn the captions in, you got to go to something like Adobe Premiere to do that. It's just it was a really hacked together process that unless that video was absolutely vital, they weren't going to mess with captioning. And so we took that and said, hey, if we've already got really half of what Quicc ultimately became in a transcription tool already, let's build a captioning interface around that, a captioning engine around that, and launch a product that through the skill of our development team and our understanding of how to take the core AI tech we built and repurpose it for what we wanted to do with Quicc. And we built the Quicc tool from the failed Alice core product. And then what we really did, Dan, is we started trying to prep that for launch at Social Media Marketing World. Creators who are watching this today, many of them are familiar with that event. Many of them attend that event. We made a lot of friends at Social Media Marketing World. But we pushed hard to get a beta, a prototype ready to demo at Social Media Marketing World in 2019. The team did a fantastic job getting it ready. Jason and Chrissy were landing the plane, fixing bugs, working with the dev team before the event was about to begin, and got the beta launch, put it in the hands of creators. And what used to take 45 minutes to get 1 minute of video successfully captioned through the burning in process now took with Quicc 3 to 5 minutes. So imagine with anything you do in life, Dan, going from a 45-minute process to a 3 to 5 minute process and reclaiming 30 to 40 minutes of your time to either do more creative, leave the office a little bit sooner and get home to your family, throw some time into reading a book, watch a few more videos, engage yourself in a hobby. You start multiplying 30 to 40 minutes of time saved for every piece of video creative when you caption it. And wow, it's basically giving back creators all kinds of time to do what they want to do or love to do. And that was the whole point of Quicc. That value prop resonated, and we started seeing signups from all over the world as a result of it.
And you mentioned earlier the number of people who watch video content with no sound. What kind of proportions are we talking about in terms of numbers? Because a lot of people, I mean, I know the answer to this because I'm the CMO, so I kind of get it. But the audience watching may not necessarily know or realize how much content doesn't actually get watched.
Yeah, that was when we knew we had a market problem that was sizable, significant, and scalable, and that there was a market audience, a product market fit for the problem we were solving. So Dan, for those folks who are watching that don't know the stats, I've seen numbers anywhere from 80 to 85% of viewers, consumers who are looking at video and social actually choose to find video they can engage with the sound still off, which seems counterintuitive, right? I mean, why wouldn't you want to both watch something and hear something, because that's engaging multiple senses, right? But the reality is, do you know where we consume video? We consume it in a noisy coffee shop while we're sipping on a cup of coffee. We consume video at the end of the day in bed at night with our spouse next to us. And you certainly don't want to be blaring out audio there, in that environment. Or we're in a classroom setting. And, listen, we're there, but we're also trying to consume a piece of content while we're in that environment too. And you can't do that with audio blaring out. So what we just found is people actually enjoy and find it more conducive to the environments that they're in, consuming video with audio off. And they're going to scroll past content that isn't captioned because it doesn't allow them to effectively consume it with the audio off, which is why captioning for accessibility and engagement purposes with creators is absolutely critical.
And let's talk a little bit about the situation we find ourselves in right now. So, I mean, since February to March time, we've had that lovely thing called coronavirus that's been kicking in. Yeah. So, I mean, I joined the beginning of this year of 2020, and it's been an interesting ride for sure. We went to social media marketing world back in, I think it was March, and then almost within weeks coronavirus hit. And how did that translate to the Quicc business, you as an individual, family and everything else? I mean, how did you and the business get through that hump? Because we're kind of over the worst of it, I hope, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting ride, wasn't it?
It was an incredible ride of highs and lows. So it was the most thrilling roller coaster ride you can imagine, right? Of ups and downs, loops and twists and turns and circles. So I'll just start with me personally. Obviously all of us were in situations where we found ourselves quarantined. We found ourselves in our own homes with our families. And there's far more good than that than bad. Like I really enjoyed the opportunity to spend more time with our kids, who obviously were doing some virtual learning at that time. They weren't able to attend school in person. So you feel that you have a little bit more time to reconnect, interact with your kids that otherwise you wouldn't get, and you appreciate the opportunity. Now, there's certainly some challenges with that too, Dan. I think a good analogy for me to draw when it comes to kids, and parents who are watching, all of you are going to immediately get this analogy. I think given the coronavirus pandemic, I can use a reference to alcohol consumption. I think it's perfectly appropriate. So just think about when you're having to quarantine, and Dan, oh my gosh, you know this too, don't you? But when you're having to quarantine yourself with kids, let's just talk about the different age demographics and what type of alcohol you would consume. So when you talk about the toddler level, preschool, maybe up to 7, 8, or 9, it's kind of like drinking a wine cooler. Yeah, you get a little bit of you get a little bit of buzz from it, but it's pretty light, it's pretty tame. And I know you're in the middle of raising some younger ones, and so for you think you might want to drink something a little stronger. But when you compare it to having spent a lot of time with teenagers, it goes from the wine cooler, which is just a soft little thing that gets you a buzz. You go from wanting to drink a full shot of whiskey when you are quarantined with teenagers, right? Who, and listen, I was a teenager like this too. We all probably were, where by the time you get to 14 and 15, which is the age of my kids, you think you've got a beat on the world. You think you've got it all figured out. You don't think your parents know anything. And my kids constantly remind me that I was born last century. So what could I possibly know about the world we live in today, right? So when you're in that environment a lot, Dan, you're like, it'd be nice to get back to some sense of normalcy. And so we're slowly but surely getting there. So personally, the good I took out of it, honestly, is a lot of reconnecting, with the family that otherwise I might spend 2 or 3 hours with them a day. And so I really did walk in and embrace that, despite the occasional shots of whiskey that you feel like you want to take. But it's far more good than bad.
See, there's one thing that you and I were talking, this is probably a couple of months ago now, but I saw a meme the other day, which when I saw it, I immediately thought to the conversation we had. And all it said was, I have to remember verbatim if I can. It was, parenting during coronavirus is waking up. I am going to swear a little bit, by the way, but it's mild, just like yours, so it's okay. It's waking up. Parenting during coronavirus is waking up one morning and realizing that you're the snack bitch for a small human.
Oh, without question, right?
You get eaten out of house and home, don't you?
Without question. Oh,
my cupboards are always bare, always.
Yes, and I'd like to tell you that improves as they become teenagers, but actually it worsens by a factor of 2x, Dan. I'm so sorry to tell you that. But it's all right, because eventually they grow up and they move out of your house, and you get a chance to eat your own snacks instead of having to fight off teenagers and younger kids for those snacks. So it will eventually get better, but you're going to have a few more wrinkles and a few more gray spots on the head of hair.
So with personal life covered,
yeah.
How did Quicc, or what happened with the Quicc business when coronavirus hit?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking, not me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that roller coaster we talked about, we did this, and then finally we were able to do that. So I think where Quicc found its success the first year, and you kind of caught in on the tail end of that engagement model with the market, we absolutely loved building relationships with the creative community. And we liked doing it by attending events, meeting new people, networking, sharing best practice tips for different pieces of tech that could help the creative process. We just frankly loved engaging the creators. And I think that those genuine relationships that we built led those creators to share with their own creative communities the tool that was present in Quicc as a way to caption video content they were producing, because other creators look to thought leaders in the space to figure out the best way to produce high quality video content, for example, that you're going to distribute. And as we've talked about, more and more captioning was becoming a priority for creators, especially through Quicc. So we had these thought leaders sharing Quicc with other creators around the world that helped the product in its first year grow exponentially. And that model, as you know, when we asked you to join our team as CMO, we were still going to build around that model of being visible, being at speaking, being at physical events, speaking from stage, being the authority in the captioning space. That was going to be our marketing play. Enter coronavirus, exit physical events, as you all know. And so when that first happened, we had a lot of amazing things lined up over the next 3 to 6 months, as you know. It was put Quicc in a prime position of visibility. We were going to be one of 5 companies at South by Southwest, pitching from stage in the entertainment content category, which was an event where it gathers 400,000 people from entertainment and media worldwide for a 9-day conference in Austin, Texas. And we had this amazing opportunity to be visible there. Here in Wichita, we were, many people are familiar with Steve Case, one of the original creator of America Online. And, he has a venture fund called Rise of the Rest, and he does bus tours, primarily focused on flyover markets like Wichita and the others in the Midwest here in the United States. And Steve was going to have a bus tour coming through Wichita. And, it looked like we were going to have the opportunity to be one of 8 startups that got to pitch directly to Steve Case for an investment, which had a whole lot of upside opportunity to build the brand over time. And all of those things, as we all know, got wiped away completely. And so you spend all this time strategizing, you with Jason and I, Dan, on how we're going to grow product in 2020. And then you basically take that, you tear up that whole playbook, and you throw it away, and it's gone, and you say, what now? And what's interesting is, as some of those opportunities started coming off the table, and we as a leadership team were figuring out what to do in response, and certainly we're getting questions from our investors and our board of directors about what now, what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And what we started to see simultaneously with that was, we're all quarantined and we're all stuck in our homes. And so what we do is we turn to social, we turn to video and social to stay informed, to stay educated, to stay connected to those people that we value. And knowing that that was really our only means of connecting with the outside world because of the corona crisis, we started seeing usage numbers spike up. More and more people, because they were stuck in their homes, were turning to video and social and turning to those types of services to create and produce more video. And a lot of people got curious about doing that with the free time they now found themselves having in their homes. And so we saw an uptick exponentially in new signups, an uptick in new videos coming through Quicc. And all of a sudden we started saying, we certainly wouldn't have wanted that to be the reason for an increase in a spike in activity, right? I'd rather scripted 50 other ways that we found an increase in usage, but all that we lost with the physical events was gained back and then some by the fact that we're all finding ourselves working in these virtual environments. And we don't know how long that's going to last. Obviously, a lot of us got released from quarantine, but we're seeing COVID numbers continue to spike, especially here in the U.S. and just to a lesser degree around the world. And we just don't know how long we're going to be continuing to go back and forth between being out and about and doing some things that feel normal and being back in our homes, having to do everything in a virtual world, in a digital world. And a lot of unknowns out there, but I like where Quicc is positioned, which is to help people who are in these isolated, socially distanced, quarantined environments to still be able to do things productively through video and social and doing it through captions. So we're really pleased that we're still a part of what is ultimately driving a positive contribution to the ecosystem through video and social.
I mean, where would you see, say, let's pick a couple of verticals. Let's say a solopreneur, a small local business, and an education organization or institution. If you take those three, where would you see opportunity for those as an entrepreneur yourself, an entrepreneurially minded, get that word out? Where would you see with those three businesses the opportunity online as you see it?
It's interesting. On the education side, I think we've seen virtual education before, right? It's not something that's new, but I think it was always a little bit, when we talked about virtual learning, people always perceive that as kind of a fringe element of academia, that the best way to go through the academic process is by physically going to a class, hearing a lecture, interacting with fellow students in a real world environment. We assume that that was the best way to learn. But I think what the education industry is seeing now is I think there's an opportunity to broaden access to education by finding ways to make it better, because the only method we have right now of delivering academic content is digitally, it is virtually. I think there's a huge opportunity for the academic industry to disrupt and redefine how we learn and to basically provide access to learning to a broader demographic group of people than they ever could have before with physical education. Now, physical education is not going away, but I think what we're going to see moving forward is the caliber of learning in a virtual environment is going to be strengthened and improved over time. And I think that bodes well for academic institutions who embrace that digital change, that digital transformation. So I think there's a huge opportunity to completely expand and redefine what the typical demographics of a student looks like to these educational institutions. So I find that one very intriguing. As a prosumer, if you are a solopreneur and you're trying to grow a business, you've never had a more fertile environment to grow a business in and get your message out than you do in the current pandemic crisis and the current environment we find ourselves in, with video and digital already trending up, and then the pandemic taking that to an off the charts level. Anyone now, as long as they have the right set of intangible traits, the right mindset, the right mentality to be creative, to push through it, to will themselves to reach whatever goal they've set for themselves, there's a huge opportunities at prosumer now to build your own business. I would have approached Insights, my career consulting business, dramatically different in 2013 when I launched it, had this kind of opportunity and environment been available to me. It wouldn't have been so one-on-one, person-to-person. It would have been delivered in a much different style digitally. So prosumers have incredible opportunities that entrepreneurs really haven't had in any previous generation. And that's exciting, because what that does is it likely increases the number of people who feel there's an attainable, achievable path for them to be entrepreneurial through these types of channels and resources. So that's exciting. What was your third category, Dan?
So the third one was, and I mean, as you know, I probably should have said earlier, I'm based in London, so in the UK. So I'm sure there's a lot of people in the States as well in similar boats, but I speak a lot with local businesses and local entrepreneurs that I know who are our local in-person businesses. And a lot of them are pivoting right now, but I think the difficulty a lot of them have is that learning curve, and a lot of it is the actual physical learning of a new skill set. A lot of it is making the mental shift of just doing something new, even though that new thing is very easy. But what kind of advice would you give a local in-person business to make the shift from, say if you're a cafe, a hairstylist, local in-person businesses like that? A lot of them are still struggling, frankly. A lot of them, they're pivoting to takeaway, or they're to online learning as best they can, but they're just waiting for that moment when things go. And I don't know about you, but I personally don't think things are going to return to normal time soon. I think it's going to be a longer road than a lot of people think. What would you give advice to give to them?
Yeah, here's what I would say to those folks in those positions. The first thing I'd mention, because I think it holds true. It's certainly a lesson that I've learned. The word change sounds easy, but as human beings, we generally don't have the drive to go through change unless we experience some level of pain. In other words, when we get something kind of the way that we like and we're comfortable with and we're familiar with it and it's doing okay for us, the thought of trying to be better when we're not experiencing pain is sometimes hard for humans to make that leap. Well, we know from the examples that you've just given and what's happening around the world, we're all experiencing a certain degree of pain right now, which is making us more open to change. So I think that the right dynamics are in place to push those business owners to want to change because they want to survive as a business. I think the best advice I could give is find other like-minded people who are going through similar situations, Dan. In this age of being able to connect digitally, like you said, you're a chief marketing officer. You're sitting in London right now. I'm here in the heart of the Midwest, in the United States, Wichita, Kansas. But we're able to work together and connect because of these resources we have in a digital world. And there are so many other like-minded people, so many other restaurant owners, salon owners, people who rely on in-person businesses who are all going through the same type of pain at the same time, but they may feel disconnected. If you feel disconnected, get yourself into a social channel. Find yourself a group of people who are experiencing the same thing. Some of them are at the early stages of that. Some of them have begun making change earlier on in this pandemic that have made some progress and learned a lot along the way that they're probably willing to share with you. If you're willing to go find those people, seek out that information, then going through that change, you don't feel so isolated and so alone, trying to figure everything out on your own. I've found the best decisions that I've always made as a leader, Dan, were made when I didn't try to figure it all out myself. Certainly, I dug into the problem myself and I tried to come up with ideas on how I could solve the problem. But then I turned to people around me who have their own perspectives. And when you combine all of these different experiences and perspectives together, you generally land on the best path forward to get through it okay. And so, but a lot of it is about community, camaraderie, not being alone and isolated. And so you've got to be willing to reach out and seek out those people.
So really, it comes down to community, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
You're not alone, literally. We could put fingers there and connect right now.
You're not alone. Oh my gosh, look at this.
One way, right there. You
Yeah.
lost your finger, but it's okay.
It's that camera reversal thing.
It's like a high five instead.
Yeah, isn't it amazing though that you may be, at times you may be quarantined, you may be isolated and alone physically, but there's this gigantic digital world out there globally that you can reach out to, engage, interact with. And I know our world has an incredible amount of problems right now. We all know that. But I think there's more people wanting to help than there are not people wanting to help. And so knowing that that's the environment, just go find like-minded people who are willing to help, willing to share about their own struggles and their own challenges and how they overcame them. And there's so much to be gained from engaging community, like you said.
I think that's a very nice note to start wrapping up on. Community. Yeah. With the future over the next couple of weeks or months, what would you say to what's coming for your world, for Quicc, for entrepreneurs in general out there over the next couple of weeks or months? What advice would you give for what's to come?
Yeah, I don't know if the situation in the short term is going to get better or worse. It may get worse, and that's a scary prospect, right? But I think what entrepreneurs need to make sure they stay focused on is that this problem will pass. We will emerge from the coronavirus, whether that's in 2020 or in 2021. It seems like it's never going to end because we're in the moment right now. We're experiencing that pain. But we will get through it okay. So entrepreneurs, keep your mind too focused on the fact that it is a finite amount of time. So what you've got to do is you've got to be really flexible. You've got to keep your pulse on the moment and what's happening and where's the trajectory taking us so that your business can make decisions according to whatever those variables are that are happening. I love sports, and so it's a sports analogy, Dan. It's entrepreneurs do really smart game planning before the game begins. And we've all gone through that process as entrepreneurs before we launched our businesses. But then when the game starts, a lot of that game plan gets swept away and it becomes irrelevant because the variables change, the environment changed, the world changed. And so you've always got to be willing to go back and retweak and readjust that playbook. I would start preparing yourself right now for 2 to 3 different scenarios as a business owner or as an entrepreneur. One, what's my strategy going to be if this still lasts another 12 months? And I would really honestly think through that strategy and begin executing that. So if the worst case scenario is we got to deal with the coronavirus and all this crazy stuff for another 12 months, you want to make sure that the game plan you put together is going to allow you to weather that storm. And then if it starts to ease sooner, then open up the plan a little sooner. So if it's driven by spend and you've got to be very capital efficient and spend very little with your business model over the next 12 months to survive, then that's the way you need to approach the current crisis. And if it appears to be easing, then open up some of that spending flow a little bit and see if there's opportunities to grow your business. Because I do believe economically, there is going to be a lot of pent-up demand to go out and whether it's buy a new product or buy a new service or get out in the world more and travel and vacation and eat out more, there is this immense amount of pent-up demand that will just flow like a dam breaking and all of that water flowing out into downstream. So you just got to think through, how can I get through the next year with my current business model and the variables being as they are? And if you've got a path to do that, you're going to be okay. And if it ends sooner, then you're going to get better sooner. But really just remember, it's a finite type of situation that we're all dealing with right now. Continue to stay positive, continue to engage and interact, Don't be the groundhog and go back into your hole for 4 more weeks of winter. Stay out where the sun's shining and just hang in there, keep a positive mindset. But the Quicc community, we'll be here for every one of our Quicc creators. We'll engage you through social. You can reach out to us anytime. We want to be part of the solution for you too. So lean on the Quicc community if you need to. If you're a business owner and you use Quicc as a product, if you want to reach out to Dan, to myself, to Jason, to any of us, I mean, we're happy to take those conversations as well, so that we can all get through this together and come out better on the other end.
There you go. And the the audience watching, if there's any questions you have for Mike, myself, the team, drop them in comments. As Mike said, reach out. If you watching this on YouTube, then subscribe, click the bell so you can be notified when more interviews go live. We have help tutorials and how-tos coming out on this channel on a regular basis, 2 to 3 times each week moving forward, literally aimed at helping creators. So that's, as Mike's alluded to throughout this live stream, that is what we're all about. So Mike, parting words of wisdom, what should we do?
Yeah, I'd like to say this just about the show and about our community and folks who are watching now and who will watch in the future. The whole idea with this show, Quicc Gains, is we really want our viewers to take away some gain from every episode. It can be something as simple as you gained by just taking a 30-minute, 45-minute break from a lot of the stress and pressure that's floating around you right now when you're trying to make a business work or you're trying to make a role that you're playing in a company work. So if that's the gain, great. If the gain is we're able to laugh a little bit about something funny that a guest shared with Quicc, with the audience, awesome. I mean, that's fantastic. If it's a nugget of wisdom through a lesson learned or someone else's failure that has helped them grow and can save you that same fate, then you've gained. I think the goal with this show is that we want our audience to gain something out of every show. So when we curate some of the guests we want to bring on, it's because they've got great stories to share and a lot of experience and wisdom to share as well. And they're probably also charismatic, funny, and witty, because that in today's environment really helps out a lot too. We've got to be able to smile and laugh, because that makes some of this stuff we're going through that much more bearable for us all. So I'm really excited to see as we move forward with the show, some of the interesting guests we bring on, what some of the gains are that we all take away from those interviews. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that play out. But thanks to everybody who's watching today, and we'll watch down the road. We're really excited to continue bringing the show to you.
So before we go, 3 questions. This is going to be the quick fire question round.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Quick fire.
Quick fire.
What's the last instrument you ever played?
The last instrument I ever played?
Yep.
My daughter got a guitar this past Christmas, and I tried to riff a little bit on that guitar, and that was the last instrument I played, and I played it absolutely terribly.
Your first best date?
My first best date. Are wives watching, or are they not watching at the live stream?
You braved that storm, my friend.
First best date. Yeah, I'd honestly, I'd have to say, and I'm not just paying homage to my current wife, Dana, who's a wonderful, wonderful spouse. I'm a very lucky guy, because I'm a pain in the rear end sometimes. But I would say that she was my very first date, because we met in a place we were not supposed to meet, which was a nightclub. You never want to script out where you meet your future spouse in a nightclub, Dan. That's never the way you want to script it out. That wasn't the way she wanted to be, and that wasn't the way I wanted to be, which I think made it okay for us both to be meeting that way, because it's not how we wanted to meet our significant other. But that first date with Dana was a lot of fun, and obviously it's led to a family and to everything that I'm doing now. So I can't help but look back fondly at that one out of all of the dates that I had, and there were many first dates. And if you were watching this live stream and you were a former date of mine, please don't feel like I shorted you by not saying that you were the best first date I ever had. But come on, I'm married. You guys understand that.
Last one. the best movie of all time, bar none.
Star Wars: A New Hope.
The
Yeah,
original.
Star Wars: A New Hope, the original Star Wars. Yeah. Oh man, that was an incredible movie, far ahead of its time in 1977, when a very, very young Mike watched that movie. But that had a dramatic impact on me, Dan, because it really made me to start thinking more about what could be rather than what is, and that is the birthplace of all entrepreneurial ideas, is what can be, not what is. So Star Wars really put that mindset in me. So for me, that's what I'd have to go with.
I'm not going to tell you I wasn't even born then. Oops.
Please don't. Oh my God.
Right. I think that's a wrap. Thank you
Right.
very much, Mike. Been a pleasure, as always. And like to those watching, any questions, any questions you want from me or for Mike or the wider team, stick them in the comments, drop us a message on any of our social platforms at Quicc Video, and I will bid you all adieu.
Bye, everybody.